Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Mismatched. So this is a very special episode because, get this, we are celebrating 1 year of Mismatched. It's kind of wild to actually say that out loud if I'm being completely honest. 1 year ago today, Mismatched was simply just an idea. And slowly and surely it became several conversations exploring the idea that and realizing that people were craving real conversations, not just shit talking, which we do from time to time. And don't get me wrong, is necessary and fun. But, there was more to be explored in terms of love, dating, healing, relationships, just all of it. And truthfully, and honestly, selfishly, I feel like I had so many questions that I wanted answers to. When I started Mismatched, to be honest, I was more terrified than I was excited because vulnerability for me out loud is very new. I mean, I'm a reporter, producer. I have been for over 10 years, and I'm so used to sharing other people's stories. So when it came to me being the one in the hot seat and, talking about my own personal stories, it became very real very fast. It was personal, and really there's nowhere to hide in these conversations because they genuinely are so raw and real. And it's funny, because over the last year, my life has changed in ways I never could have predicted when I first started this podcast. It's interesting because when the podcast had started, I was very much in love and in a relationship. And then through the podcast and as the year unfolded, I actually experienced heartbreak and a breakup. And so the podcast was so healing in that way because as I was learning and sharing how to get over heartbreak or be, present in relationships or be your best self in relationships, all of those things I was along the ride for, as all of you were. I said this in a podcast and I'm going to say it again, is that through every breakup, maybe it hasn't been my fault completely, but there's a common denominator there. And the common denominator is me. So looking in the mirror, I really took a good look at myself and saying, what am I doing wrong? What am I choosing? What am I accepting? What am I not valuing in myself that is then being reflected in the men that I'm choosing to be with? In taking accountability for those patterns, I slowly have been choosing myself. And honestly, I have Mismatched and all of you to thank for that process. And I really have every guest who has sat on this couch in this studio to thank for allowing me to become the person that I am a year later sitting in this couch. Some guests have given me perspective. Some guests have challenged me. Some guests have made me see things that maybe I didn't realize or really understand before. Some guests help put words to feelings and emotions that I don't think I could have expressed before. Some have even comforted me in times of sadness, grief, or healing. And you know what? They've taught me so much about self-worth, about love, about dating, relationships, confidence, about growth, about development, about intimacy, attachment, trauma in ways that I really could not have imagined. There were episodes and interviews where I would leave the studio feeling so emotionally drained from our conversation because it took so much out of me. And there were other conversations where it changed the course of my day because I sat and had that conversation with the guest. But I think that's what makes Mismatched so special to me personally, if I may say, because these weren't just conversations. These were connections that were being built. This past year has brought opportunities that I'm incredibly grateful for. I have worked really hard for a very long time. So to see it all kind of come together and make sense, it's been amazing. And I feel like I'm really settling into myself, not just as a woman in her career and where it's going, but again, personally. I think for many years, especially in this industry, there's this expectation and pressure to be perfect all the time, to be polished all the time, to pretend like you're all right all the time. And in this podcast, I've learned to unlearn all those things, to stop performing and feel like I need to have everything figured out all the time and be perfect all the time, because that is exhausting. This podcast has taught me to lean into the perfectly imperfect, because real connection isn't based on perfection. At the end of the day, people connect to honesty, people connect to humanity, and people connect to vulnerability. And that's what all of you have given me this past year in listening, supporting, and believing in Mismatched. The audience response, the listeners' and viewers' response to this podcast has been the most rewarding part in doing this. And that was the intention that I set out. That was the only intention. I didn't care about numbers. I didn't care about how much it would grow. I cared about how I would make people feel, and how I made people feel is seen and heard. The responses and DMs that I've gotten, and even people, that I've run into in the GTA is just, thank you so much for helping me not feel so alone. Thank you for making me feel seen. Thank you for making me feel a little less crazy. Thank you for helping me heal. Thank you for giving me hope. And it's things like that stay with me and really give me purpose to what I'm doing. What's also really beautiful is to see, hear, and learn how you community Mismatched members have also grown in your own lives, whether that be through engagements, weddings, and work opportunities, but also, learning when to walk away and how to heal from heartbreak. All of this growth we've been able to do together, and I feel super honored to have been a part of that, even if it's in a very small way. Thank you so much for trusting me with your DMs, your comments, your likes, your suggestions, your stories, and of course, your vulnerability, because this wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for you. And speaking of trust, I want to thank the team here at Grid Studio for all of their support, their guidance, their patience, because this journey has also been, a learning lesson for me. I'm still figuring it out, and I'm just so grateful for them and their support, their wisdom, and the laughs, the tears, walking in here being like, what happened? Are you okay? Or what's going on? Who's coming on the podcast today? Their team has just been amazing. And even technically, I've really had to learn a lot of things. And I can honestly say there aren't too many opportunities in life where you're setting out to learn something that feels very uncomfortable. And this has been that for me, even just tech wise. So that process has been an amazing challenge. And I have their team to thank for getting me through it. And to my parents, I want to thank them for always believing in me. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for supporting me through this version of myself in this last year. As parents, it's never easy to watch your kids go through heartbreak. And my parents have done it time and time again. And they've just been also my therapist, my rock, and my best friends. And without their support, this wouldn't be possible. Without them believing that there's strength in my vulnerability and sharing my stories in this way, I wouldn't been able to do it. So thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you guys, and I definitely want you to come back on this couch, as I'm sure everybody else does too. And to my friends in this community, I need to thank you again for all of your support, for your belief, and for your participation in making Mismatched possible. Thank you so much to everyone who has shared their story on this podcast, for your courage and for your vulnerability, because it's not easy to sit in a chair and pour your heart out, and you've trusted me with that, and I don't take that lightly at all, and I appreciate every single person that has walked through the studio. Mismatched is all about love in all its forms, whether it be with yourself, with friends, family, romantic. And what I've learned essentially is we're all still just trying to figure it out. We're all trying to love better. We're all trying to heal. We're all trying to become the best versions of ourselves. We're constantly trying to unlearn things to do better and even remain hopeful. And I think that's why Mismatch resonates with so many people, because it's not about just having the answers. It's about the willingness to sit and have those conversations first. And I can honestly say I've changed so much in the past year. I'm definitely not the same girl who started this podcast a year ago. I'm softer in some ways and stronger in others. More self-aware, more grounded, and more protective of my peace. I'm more okay with uncertainty. And I think for the first time in a really long time, just at a place of peace. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me, whether you've listened to one episode or all of them. It means a lot. So thank you, Mismatched community, for everything. On that note, it wouldn't be a 1 year if we didn't have a cupcake and a candle, and most importantly, a wish. My wish is to continue to do this, to continue to help others, to grow, to share, to learn, to be the best versions of ourselves. And cheers, and raising my cupcake to many, many more people coming through the studio for growth and exciting things that are coming very, very soon. Happy birthday to Mismatched, and see you soon.